The rescue captain Elena Vasquez pressed her palm against the cold viewport of the exploration vessel Wanderer, watching the strange convoy of ships drift through the void ahead. In her 15 years of deep space exploration, she had never seen vessels like these. They moved slowly, almost helplessly, their hulls pockmarked with damage and their energy signatures barely registering on the sensors. "Captain, we're picking up massive life signs from those ships," reported Lieutenant Commander Marcus Chen from the sensor station. His voice carried a mixture of excitement and concern. "Thousands of beings, but their bioreadings are unusual." Elena turned from the viewport, her dark eyes reflecting the determination that had carried her through countless dangerous missions. "Unusual how?" "They are incredibly faint. Almost like they are barely alive. And there's something else." Marcus paused, studying his readings more carefully. "The energy patterns don't match any known species in the Galactic database." Dr. Sarah Kim, the ship's xenobiologist, looked up from her workstation with obvious excitement. "Captain, this could be first contact with an entirely new species." "The scientific implications alone hold that thought, Doctor," Elena interrupted as her communications officer, Ensign David Park, suddenly straightened at his station. "I'm receiving a transmission. It's weak, but it's definitely artificial. Someone's trying to communicate with us." Elena settled into her command chair, feeling the familiar weight of responsibility. "Put it through, Ensign." "All stations. Yellow alert." The transmission crackled with static, but through the interference came a voice unlike anything they had ever heard. The words were translated by the universal language processor, but the original tone suggested something musical, almost ethereal. "Unknown vessels, please, we are dying. Our children, they hunger. We seek only passage to somewhere we might exist without persecution. Please, if you have mercy in your hearts, help us." The bridge fell silent. Elena felt the eyes of her crew upon her, waiting for her decision. She had heard desperation before, but this was different. This was the sound of her entire people on the edge of extinction. "Tactical, what's the status of those ships?" she asked Lieutenant Torres, her tactical officer, shook her head grimly. "Life support is failing across the fleet, Captain. Hull breaches on every vessel. They are not just dying, they are being slowly killed by exposure to space." Elena stood up, her decision crystallizing. "Helm, set course for the nearest vessel. Dr. Kim, prepare medical teams. Commander Chen, ready the docking systems. We are going to help them." "Captain," Dr. Kim said hesitantly, "we don't know anything about their biology. They could be carrying diseases, or they might be hostile." "Doctor, did that transmission sound hostile to you?" Sarah Kim looked down at her hands, then back up at her captain. "No. It sounded heartbroken." 3 hours later, Elena stood in the modified cargo bay that had been hastily converted into a refugee reception area. What she saw took her breath away. The beings they had rescued from the first ship were unlike anything in the Galactic databases. They stood about 4 feet tall, with slender builds and skin that seemed to shimmer with a faint, inner light. Their eyes were large and luminous, changing color with what appeared to be their emotional states. Despite their obvious weakness and exhaustion, there was something graceful, almost angelic about them. The being who had spoken on the transmission approached Elena slowly. Its movements were fluid, like walking through water, and its eyes shifted from dim blue to a hopeful green as it looked at her. "I am ZYN Anthara, speaker for the Lumina," the being said, its voice carrying harmonics that seemed to resonate in Elena's chest. "You have shown us kindness when we expected only death. We do not understand why." Elena knelt to bring herself closer to the being's eye level. "Because everyone deserves help when they are in trouble. That's what makes us human." ZYN Anthara's eyes brightened to a warm gold. "Human. We have not heard this word before. The Galactic Dominion told us humans were myth, primitive beings who died out before achieving space travel. Well, as you can see, we are very much alive," Elena smiled. "And we'd like to help you stay alive too. Can you tell me what happened to your people?" The story that emerged over the following days broke Elena's heart and filled her with rage. The Lumina had once been a thriving species, living in harmony on a world of floating crystal cities. Their unique biology allowed them to manipulate energy fields and communicate through bioluminescent displays. But the Galactic Dominion had deemed them inefficient and resource-wasteful. They said we were weak because we would not fight. In their wars, ZY and Anthara explained as Elena visited the refugee areas. They said we were useless because we could not build their machines or mine their minerals. They declared us a failed evolutionary path and ordered our removal from productive space. Dr. Kim, who had been studying the Lumina for days, looked up from her scanner. Captain, this is incredible. Their cellular structure is completely unique. They are like living energy capacitors, but their abilities have been suppressed somehow. Elena watched as young Lumina played with human children, their skin glowing with gentle rainbow patterns. Suppressed how? Fear, ZY and Anthara said simply. When we are afraid, when we believe we are worthless, our light dims. The Dominion spent generations convincing us we were failures. We began to believe it ourselves. That night, Elena stood in her quarters looking out at the stars, but her mind was on the refugee ships still drifting nearby. 80,000 Lumina, all that remained of a species that had once numbered in the millions. The Dominion had essentially committed genocide. Through systematic demoralization and abandonment, her comm unit chimed. Captain, this is Dr. Kim. You need to see this. Elena found the doctor in the main refugee area where something extraordinary was happening. A group of Lumina children was playing with human crew members and their bioluminescent displays were brighter than ever before. More importantly, the humans seemed different too. Their movements were more fluid, their reflexes faster, and there was a sense of calm alertness about them that Elena had never seen before. What am I looking at, Doctor? Symbiosis, Dr. Kim said in amazement. The Lumina aren't just energy manipulators, Captain. They are consciousness enhancers. When they feel safe and valued, they naturally form empathic bonds with those around them. Look at this. She showed Elena a scanner reading from Petty Officer Williams, who was teaching Lumina children a card game. His neural activity is off the charts, but in a good way. Enhanced pattern recognition, improved reflexes, heightened intuition. The Lumina child is bonding with is glowing brighter than we've ever seen. Elena watched as Williams seemed to anticipate exactly what the Lumina child needed, offering encouragement and help without being asked. The child's skin pulsed with warm, happy colors, and other Lumina were drawn to the group like moths to flame. Captain, ZY and Anthara approached, its eyes now brilliant gold. May I speak with you privately? They walked to a quiet corner of the bay, where ZY and Anthara's skin began to glow with complex patterns Elena was beginning to recognize as deep emotion. Your people are changing us, ZY and Anthara said. For the first time in generations, we remember what we were before the Dominion convinced us we were nothing. But more than that, you are changing too. We can feel it. Elena nodded slowly. The doctor explained about the bonding process. Is it harmful? Harmful? ZY and Anthara's laugh was like silver bells. Captain, it is what we were born for. The Dominion feared us not because we were weak, but because we make others stronger. A human bonded with a Lumina becomes something greater than either could be alone. Over the following weeks, as the Wanderer transported the Lumina refugees to the human colony world of Kepler 442b, Elena witnessed the transformation firsthand. Her crew worked with unprecedented efficiency and harmony. Problems that would normally take hours to solve were resolved in minutes through the enhanced intuition and empathic communication the Lumina provided, but it wasn't just the practical benefits that impressed her. Elena found herself feeling more connected to her crew, more aware of their emotional states and needs. The constant low-level stress of command seemed to ease as she learned to trust the enhanced instincts the Lumina bond provided. When they finally reached Kepler 442b, Governor Jackson Martinez was waiting with a mixture of curiosity and concern. 80,000 refugees, Elena. Do you know what you've done? Elena stood on the landing pad, watching as Lumina families disembarked with wonder in their eyes. The planet's twin suns made their skin glow like living jewels, and for the first time since the rescue, they looked truly alive. I've done what any decent human being would do, Jack. I've given people a home. But the Dominion will come looking for them. They don't just let species disappear. Asterisk. Elena smiled, feeling the calm confidence that her Lumina bond provided. Let them come. I have a feeling they are going to be very surprised by what they find. As the last of the refugees settled into their new homes, Elena stood with ZY and Anthara, watching the sunset paint the sky in brilliant colors. The Lumina's skin echoed the hues of the sky, and Elena felt a deep sense of peace she had never experienced before. We are home, ZY and Anthara said softly. For the first time in generations, we are truly home. Elena nodded, but part of her mind was already thinking about the challenges ahead. The Dominion wouldn't ignore the disappearance of 80,000 Lumina, no matter how much they claimed to despise them. When they came looking, they would find something they had never expected, a species they had tried to destroy, made stronger by human compassion and partnership. The awakening 6 months after the Lumina settlement on Kepler 442b, Elena stood in the colony's new communications center watching reports flood in from across human space. The news was spreading faster than she had ever imagined possible, and with it came both hope and danger. Captain, we're receiving another request for asylum, reported communications specialist Janet Rodriguez. This one's from a species called the Vorthak. They say they heard about what we did for the Lumina. Elena nodded grimly. It was the 5th such request this week. Word was spreading throughout the galaxy's oppressed species that humans were different, that they actually helped instead of exploited. But with each refugee ship that arrived, the risk of Dominion retaliation grew. Dr. Kim approached with her latest research data, her eyes bright with excitement despite the growing tension. Elena, you need to see what we've discovered about the human-Lumina bonds. It's beyond anything we initially theorized. They walked to the colony's research facility, where Elena saw sights that still amazed her. Humans and Lumina work together in perfect harmony, their combined abilities creating solutions to problems that would have taken months to solve alone. Engineer Mike Santos and his Lumina partner Velthar had redesigned the colony's power grid, increasing efficiency by 300% while reducing environmental impact to almost zero. The bonding process is evolving, Dr. Kim explained as they watched. A construction team work. The Lumina aren't just enhancing human abilities anymore. They are learning from us too. Watch this. She led Elena to where Velthar was working alone on a complex engineering problem. The Lumina's skin pulsed with focused blue light as it manipulated holographic displays with movements that seemed to bend physics itself. 6 months ago, Velthar could barely understand basic human technology, Dr. Kim whispered. Now it's innovating beyond our current capabilities. The bonding process isn't just sharing consciousness, it's creating hybrid thinking patterns that neither species could achieve alone. Elena was about to respond when alarms began blaring throughout the colony. Her comm unit crackled to life. With the voice of Admiral Harrison Blake, her old friend and now the commanding officer of the Kepler Defense Fleet. Elena, we've got company. 3 Dominion warships just dropped out of hyperspace. They are demanding the return of their property. Elena felt the familiar calm that her Lumina bond provided, but underneath it was something new as steel hard. Determination that seemed to come from both species working together. I'm on my way to the command center. Harry, do not engage until I get there. Roger that. But Elena, these aren't exploration vessels. These are Dominion enforcement ships. They are here for war. The command center was buzzing with activity when Elena arrived. Admiral Blake stood at the central display, his weathered face grim as he studied the approaching ships. The Dominion vessels were sleek and menacing, their dark hulls bristling with weapons designed to intimidate as much as destroy. They are broadcasting on all frequencies, reported the communications officer. Standard Dominion enforcement protocol. They claim the Lumina are stolen property and demand their immediate return. Elena stepped forward, feeling the presence of ZY and Anthara as her partner entered the command center. The Lumina's skin was glowing with complex patterns that Elena had learned to recognize as deep resolve mixed with ancient memories. Open a channel, Elena ordered. The main screen flickered to life, showing the bridge of the lead Dominion ship. The being on screen was tall and reptilian, with cold yellow eyes and scales that seemed to absorb light. Elena recognized the species. From the Galactic databases, Saurian, one of the Dominion's founding members and enforcers. I am Overlord Kexthal of the Dominion Enforcement Division, the being said in a voice like grinding stone. You are harboring stolen Dominion property. Return the Lumina immediately or face the consequences. Elena stepped forward, her voice steady and clear. I am Captain Elena Vasquez of the Human Colonial Defense Force. The beings you call property are free citizens of this colony. They came here seeking refuge from persecution, and we granted it. Kexthal's eyes narrowed. Humans. We were told. Your species was extinct. No matter. You have no authority here. The Lumina belong to the Dominion. They are genetic failures, useful only as cautionary examples to other species. The only failure here is your understanding of what makes a species valuable, Elena replied, feeling ZY and Enthara's presence strengthen her resolve. The Lumina are not property. They are people. And people have the right to choose their own destiny. Kexthal's laugh was like breaking glass. Choose? They are incapable of choosing. They are weak, inefficient, evolutionarily obsolete. We offer them the mercy of controlled extinction rather than the chaos of freedom. Then you clearly don't know what they are capable of, Elena said, nodding to Admiral Blake. The command center's lights dimmed as ZY and Enthara and a dozen other Lumina entered the room. Their skin began to glow with synchronized patterns and suddenly every human in the room felt the change. Elena's awareness expanded, her consciousness touching those of every bonded pair in the colony. She could feel their combined strength, their shared determination, their unified purpose. Through the bond, she felt the Lumina's true nature awakening. They weren't just energy manipulators or consciousness enhancers. They were something the galaxy had never seen before, a species designed to create perfect harmony between different forms of life. The Dominion had feared them not because they were weak, but because they represented everything the Dominion stood against: cooperation over domination, unity over division, strength through diversity rather than conquest. Admiral, Elena said, her voice carrying new authority, prepare the defense fleet. But remember, we are not just defending our colony. We are defending the principle that no species has the right to decide another's fate. On the screen, Kexthal's expression had changed from contempt to uncertainty. What are you doing? There is something wrong with this transmission. Nothing wrong, Elena replied, feeling the power of 80,000 Lumina minds joining with their human partners. You're just seeing us as we really are for the first time. The Dominion ships began their attack run, but they were facing something unprecedented in galactic history. The human defense fleet moved with impossible coordination, their ships dancing through space like schools of fish. Every pilot was bonded with a Lumina partner, their consciousness expanded beyond normal human limitations. Lieutenant Commander Sarah Chen, piloting the fighter Star Dancer, felt her Lumina partner Quinthel's presence merge with her own awareness. Suddenly, the approaching Dominion fighters weren't just blips on her scanner, they were three-dimensional entities whose every movement she could predict and counter. She rolled through a barrage of plasma fire that should have been impossible to avoid, her ship responding to thoughts rather than conscious commands. Asterisk. How are they doing this? Kexthal demanded from his command ship as his fighter squadrons were systematically outmaneuvered and disabled rather than destroyed. The answer came from an unexpected source. His own science officer, a being from a species the Dominion considered barely sentient, looked up from her instruments with wonder in her eyes. Sir, the humans aren't fighting alone. They are connected somehow. They are sharing consciousness with the Lumina, creating a collective awareness that anticipates our every move. On the ground, Elena felt the battle through the bonds of every pilot, every gunner, every crew member. But more than that, she felt the awakening of something that had been dormant in the Lumina for generations. They weren't just helping humans fight, they were remembering what they had been before the Dominion broke their spirit. ZY and Enthara's skin blazed with golden light as ancient memories surfaced. We were guardians once, it said, its voice carrying harmonics that seemed to resonate in everyone's bones. We were the species that brought others together, that helped them find their true potential. The Dominion feared us because we make tyranny impossible. The battle was over in less than an hour. The Dominion ships found themselves surrounded by a defense fleet that moved with impossible coordination, their weapons systems disabled by precise targeting that left them helpless but unharmed. For the first time in Dominion history, an enforcement division had been defeated without a single death on either side. Elena opened a channel to the disabled Dominion ships. Overlord Kexthal, your ships are disabled but your crews are unharmed. You have a choice to make. You can return to the Dominion and report that humans and Lumina are more dangerous than you thought, or you can stay and learn what we've learned, that every species has value, that cooperation is stronger than domination. Kexthal's image flickered on the screen, his reptilian features showing confusion and something that might have been fear. This is impossible. The Lumina are weak. They cannot fight. You're right, Elena said, feeling the warm presence of ZY and Anthara beside her. They don't fight. They unite. They bring out the best in everyone around them. That's not weakness, that's the greatest strength in the galaxy. Over the following days, something unprecedented happened. Members of Kexthal's crew began requesting permission to visit the colony. They were species that the Dominion had classified as useful but limited beings who had been told they were valuable only for their labor or their compliance. Dr. Kim worked around the clock studying the interactions between humans, Lumina, and the visiting aliens. Elena, this is incredible. The Lumina bonding ability isn't limited to humans. They can form connections with any species that approaches them with openness and respect. Elena watched as a young Saurian engineer worked alongside a Lumina-bonded human team, his cold reptilian features showing expressions of wonder and joy she had never seen in his species before. The Lumina's influence was awakening emotional capacities in the Saurian that his own culture had suppressed for millennia. The Dominion built their power on convincing species that they were limited, ZY and Anthara explained to Elena as they watched the growing cooperation between different species. They made each species believe they were good for only one thing: the Saurians for enforcement, the crystallines for computation, the depth swimmers for aquatic work. But every species has far greater potential than they were allowed to explore. Elena nodded, understanding the implications. And the Lumina helped them discover that potential. We helped them remember who they were meant to be, ZY and Anthara corrected gently. Just as you helped us remember. The transformation was accelerating beyond anything Elena had imagined. Within weeks, reports were coming in from across the galaxy. Dominion client species were questioning their roles, demanding better treatment, and in some cases, openly rebelling. The idea that cooperation could be stronger than domination was spreading like wildfire. But Elena knew this was just the beginning. The Dominion would not allow their carefully constructed hierarchy to crumble without a fight. They would return. With more ships, more weapons, and more determination to destroy what they saw as a threat to their very existence. As she stood on the colony's observation deck, watching human and Lumina children play together while their parents worked on innovations that would have seemed impossible just months before, Elena felt a deep certainty settle in her bones. The galaxy was changing, and there was no going back. ZY and Anthara joined her, its skin glowing with soft, contented light. They will come again, it said simply. I know, Elena replied. But when they do, they won't be facing just humans and Lumina. They'll be facing everyone who believes in freedom, cooperation, and the right of every species to reach their full potential. Through their bond, Elena felt the vast network of connections spreading across the galaxy. Humans and Lumina were no longer alone. They were part of something larger, something that the Dominion had never encountered before: a coalition of species united not by force, but by the simple revolutionary idea that everyone deserved to be valued for who they truly were. The real war was just beginning, but Elena was no longer worried about the outcome. The Dominion's greatest weapon had always been their ability to make others feel weak and divided. But humans had given the Lumina something the Dominion could never understand: the gift of believing in themselves. And the Lumina, in turn, were giving that gift to every species they encountered. The galaxy would never be the same.